Welcome back to Maths with Mrs. J. Our previous video we did a technique called completing the square. I'm going to now use that technique to derive what is known as the quadratic formula. You will become quite familiar with the quadratic formula over your years. It's very useful for solving equations when you can't factorise easily. Let's just go through the process like we did with the previous examples in our completing the square, but in this case we don't actually know what any of these coefficients are. So we're going to be working with algebra here. That's okay, we can do it. All right, so our first step, you might remember, is we want to have a 1x squared. It'll make our lives easier. To do that, I'm going to divide every single term by A. So that's step one. All right, so we've now got rid of the fact that we had a non-unitary coefficient of x squared. Now you might recall the next step that we did. Don't be freaked out by the fact that we've got algebra here, that's okay. The next step that we did was we put the we put the constant term over the other side by subtracting. Now we're at the point where we need to have a look at the coefficient of x. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to halve that and square it. How do we halve b on a? Well, half of b on a is b on 2a. All right, so that's what we want to add to both sides squared. So just going through that again, we've divided everything by a. We're allowed to do that, it's an equation, so as long as we divide every term by a, we're all good. So that we've just got a 1 in front of our x squared. Then we've looked at our coefficient of our x, we've halved it and squared it and added that to both sides. Now, what we've done is we've rigged it so that this is really x plus b on 2a, all squared. And we can now, just using a little bit of algebra, tidy up our right-hand side. So we're going to get negative c on a plus, when you have a square here, you're going to get b squared on 4a squared. You have to square the numerator and the denominator. Let's tidy this up a little more. So same denominator, 4a squared. You're going to multiply the denominator by 4a, so you're going to multiply the numerator by 4a. Tidying it up a little bit more, let's just put them all over the one denominator. And I like to write my positive term first, so b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Now we're at the point where we can take the square root of both sides. So x plus b on 2a is positive or negative square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I can do that because I can take the square root of that denominator, and then we can bring that over because it's on the same denominator, so we get negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That is your quadratic formula. Let's write it down. So your quadratic formula is that if you have ax squared plus bx plus c is 0, then x can be found by doing negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.